And the Emmy goes to The West Wing.
At this year's Emmy ceremony in Hollywood, an unprecedented 9 awards went to the White House-based series The West Wing.
Action. Casey's going to want appropriations. Yes.
What is remarkable about The West Wing is that it has become a top-rated show with a weekly audience of some 15 million viewers by dealing with serious Washington subjects. So serious, in fact, that the show has been nicknamed The West Wonk.
There is tremendous drama to be gotten from the great, what you would say, heavy issues.
Aaron Sorkin is the creator and principal writer of The West Wing.
There's also drama to be gotten from issues that most people would consider very dry and wouldn't want to pay any attention to.
In fact, The West Wing plotlines often seem drawn from the headlines.
I submit that those senators who have voted time and time again to ban soft money.
Last spring, as the White House and Congress were doing battle on campaign finance reform legislation, so was the drama.
None of the four of you favor a ban on soft money contributions. But the truth is, you do.
And while the real West Wing was grappling with the potential of an India-Pakistan nuclear conflict,
Pakistanis, yes, whose average per capita income is $400.
So was the drama.
The longest peacetime economic expansion in our history.
And President Jed Bartlett prepared for the State of the Union address in much the same fashion as President Clinton. Last season, the show took on hate crimes, capital punishment, the ethanol tax, school vouchers, and mandatory minimum sentences, among other traditionally wonkish subjects.
Last year, we did an episode that about the census. You just say the word census, and people fall asleep. It's a questionnaire. Turns out it's terribly important.
Head counts have proven staggeringly inaccurate.
Why?
How are you going to count the homeless?
In the plot, C.J. Craig, the press secretary, played by Allison Janney, confesses that she does not understand the concept of a census undercount.
Sampling, statisticians have told us, is a much more effective way of getting a good census.
And what's the legal argument?
The legal argument is it's unconstitutional. Legal argument is it's against law.
But if sampling's really against the law, why would Congress be trying to pass legislation saying sampling's against the law?
You see how good it feels to understand what you're talking about?
The Supreme Court is set to hear arguments today in a case that...
While West Wing tackled the census issue, NBC News, the network on which the drama airs, gave it short shrift on its early news shows. Other networks skipped the issue altogether.
I thought Aaron was crazy. I read that and I was like, well, this is going to be the most boring thing ever.
Allison Janney.
Now I can guarantee you everyone who saw that show is going to fill out their census because they saw how and they learned how important it actually was and what it means.
All right, let's go.
Joe Lockhart, who stepped down recently as White House press secretary, admires the show, especially its episode on the census.
And they did a better job of framing the issue, the politics on each side, and the passions on each side than anybody in the broadcast world did throughout this debate. We've been having this debate for 2 years and brought it to life in a way that nobody else has done it.
They moved the mark.
John Spencer, who plays Leo McGarry, a hard-edged White House chief of staff, is not surprised the audience has responded to such policy-heavy plots.
I've often thought that the viewing public has been underestimated too often by suits in higher positions. I think people will watch something that is good or even less than good, perhaps mediocre. And when shown something that is better, their attention will go over to that direction.
The creators of West Wing strive to make the show as realistic and credible as possible. So several times a year they bring the cast here to Washington to use scenes like this as a backdrop for the policy issues that are central to the plot.
It raises issues that don't get raised that often, particularly with a entertainment viewing audience.
We put up a budget that met that goal. But
Lockhart says the series portrays a mostly realistic view of how the White House works. He has talked shop with his counterpart, CJ, and clowned around with her here on the set version of the White House press briefing room and here in the actual press briefing room.
What's your assessment of Lockhart's acting abilities?
He is...
Thank you.
It is a very difficult job because you are the servant of two masters. And Joe Lockhart, once, he actually let me start a press briefing. And he was strange. I felt strangely comfortable, though, going in there.
I like it because I think it accurately portrays so many of the aspects of the White House that people never get to see and can't know about.
Marlin Fitzwater, press secretary to Presidents Bush and Reagan, was recently retained as a consultant to the show to add a Republican perspective. He believes the West Wing, with its dramatic techniques, often gets closer to the truth than conventional news reporting.
The impact is real. It shows how fast issues come up, how fast you have to deal with them, how little information you often have, how sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're arrogant, sometimes you're soft, sometimes you're pompous and doing stupid things, and it's all right there to see.
Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, well, what a show like this will do that conventional news reporting can't is we can show you the 2 minutes before and after what you see on CNN. By and large, what you're going to see on the news, what you're going to read in a newspaper, is the result of something that's happened at the White House, and there isn't much of an opportunity to see how they arrived at that. And that behind-the-scenes element is important to me. It's important to the show.
The show shows the kinds of frustrations that exist between a press secretary and the press corps. And there's always truth on both sides. I think CJ does a great job. She suffers the same pain and anguish that I suffered. I can see it in her face. I think that's me 10 years ago, you know. And I think it's very healthy.
The great bulk of the show is shot here on a soundstage at Warner Brothers Studios in Los Angeles that gives new meaning to the phrase Western White House. The set is a meticulous depiction of the real West Wing, including, of course, the Oval Office.
And action!
As the second season commences, the show's creators are intrigued by suggestions that some Americans may look to the drama more than the news media for their sense of how things get done in the White House. Tommy Schlamme is co-executive producer and director.
I think that we can make an audience be able to sort of relax and watch the environment around them. When it's all over with, they're actually understanding it better than if they picked up the New York Times, if even they watched your show, where they're coming there specifically to be told the truth.
Every Democratic congressman in a tight race.
Brad Whitford plays Josh Lyman, the conflicted deputy chief of staff. Whitford says drama allows more liberty than news and therefore may give viewers more insight.
The issue for my character every week, and the issue of the show to an extent every week, and here's where the metaphors get mixed, is how dirty do your feet have to get without suffocating yourself in the mud in order to get an inch of what you really want done? And I think the difficulty of making those decisions is something that we can show in a way that the press doesn't.
And while the actors have mixed with their real-life counterparts at occasions, such as this party on the set during the Democratic convention and this White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington last spring, the show does have some scenarios that the real-life veterans of the West Wing find implausible.
They had a Supreme Court nominee arrested for speeding, and two members of the White House staff went and broke him out of jail, which is an impeachable offense. And for any White House to really try that would have been stupid.
There were a couple of episodes where they had, members of Congress down here and staffers in meetings with, staffers here at the White House berating the members of Congress. That doesn't happen.
This season, the West Wing will once again highlight front-page issues, including education, the nuclear test ban treaty, Social Security, and AIDS in Africa, further demonstrating that even on television, art can illuminate reality.